Hey Pathfinders, our book has finally arrived. The Pathfinder's Journey is live on Amazon right now and ready for you. If you have already purchased our book and or left us a review, we thank you endlessly. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? The ebook sale of 99 cents won't last long, so head over to Amazon today to get your copy. Be sure to download the free 7-day reading journal to make your journey even more worthwhile. Well, that's all for now. Check out the link in the show notes to get your copy of The Pathfinder's Journey today. Enjoy the show.
We were able to write the book and produce this podcast and do a lot more than we had done previously while we bought all of these houses because we had the systems in place.
Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we could have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to help guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life through real estate investing. Now sit back, turn up the volume, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. Hey Pathfinders, and welcome back to another episode of the On Purpose Investor with your host, Eric, and my beautiful, most amazing, redheaded queen of a woman,
Tiffany.
I'm gonna work on my build up.
Okay. So do I need to just wait going forward?
Yeah, you're gonna wait until I point at you.
Okay. So season 3.
Just be prepared.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So when we get back from the crazy summer activities and we start recording season 3,
yeah,
just expect I'm going to have built some type of intro to build you up.
So is this like when you get real quiet and I can't figure out what you're thinking about, that's what you're going to be pondering?
Exactly.
Okay.
So while we're sitting outside the RV this summer,
yeah,
and I'm dazed out,
yeah, you're
staring
planning
at the squirrels and birds in the trees, and you're like, hey, are you even here?
Watching the toddler eat rocks.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, oh, no, I was just thinking of another adjective for you to be my build-in into the On Purpose Investor podcast.
All right.
Today's episode, number 23.
That was the longest intro.
Minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Or so.
Yeah.
Episode 23, The Snowball Effect.
Wow. You could actually put sound effects in instead of making your own.
Well, I wanted to echo.
I know. Okay.
All right, let's get to this episode.
All right. So we wanted to talk about how last week we talked about SMART goals. So we're going to talk about kind of how that played out in our business. So we talked about how we started with just one property in the first year, and then it accelerated from there.
That's right.
So we want to talk about kind of how it got easier over time.
And we got quite a few properties that we're going to be talking through, and we might be wisping through them a little quickly. If you have any more questions about any one of these properties and you have a little more in-depth questions, like, how did you find that house? Or if we don't answer it here, please shoot us an email. Let us respond to you.
Hit us on social media.
And hit us up on social media.
If you go to the onpurposeinvestor.com, in the top, there's all the icons for our social media, email, all that good stuff. So feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't joined already, surely you have seen, if you follow us on any social media, surely you've seen something about circle.onpurposeinvestor.com. This is our closed community for all of our Pathfinders, our future Pathfinders, our book readers, our podcast listeners, our course takers, all of them.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is where you go to get next level education and community, everything relating to the On Purpose Investor.
Yeah, so check it out.
Absolutely. Again, that website, circle.onpurposeinvestor.com.
Yeah.
Check us out. Join the community. Become a Pathfinder today.
All right. So we're going to start with our tornado house. That's what we're calling it because it got hit.
Yeah. And I didn't like calling it the tornado house. Like, I wanted another catchy name for it. But, that is the house that is...
It was in the eye of our tornado.
Yeah, if you say, did any of your houses get hit by the tornado? We're like, yeah, a couple of them got damage from it, but this one was literally ground zero.
Yeah, but it didn't get... I mean, the roof got some shingles and a window, but...
It is absolutely amazing.
The house next door is barely standing.
There were about 5 houses surrounding this house in a perfect circle that all were either missing their roofs entirely,
right,
or had trees crashed into them, or the house was gone completely.
Right.
So,
and our house is on top of a hill, so
it was the most elevated home, and sometimes God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. So we bought this house in August of 2019.
Yep.
We had all in, it was about $175,000.
Yep.
It appraised for $205,000.
So we left some money in this deal.
Yeah, it appraised lower than it probably should have.
Right.
This is where our appraisals started coming in really low, and we had to leave more cash in our deals.
Yeah,
but
that's okay. It had a good return.
Right. And I mean, at the end of the day, we know the value's there. If we had listed it on the market, we would have gotten more. So,
and we found this one on the market.
Yeah,
right.
It was. It's four bedrooms. Yeah, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths.
3 baths.
So upstairs in the house is basically 2 master suites.
Yep.
And then downstairs 2 bedrooms share 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
And it's just a great family home.
And when we bought it, there was tile floor all the way throughout the bottom floor.
Yeah.
And really rough carpet throughout the upstairs and in the bedrooms and what. No, the bedrooms downstairs were all tile too.
Yeah, it was tile
and
everywhere.
there was cracked tiles and
it was still in good shape though.
Yeah, it was just one of those. It's like this house has not been touched since it was built in like 1998.
Right.
We knew we had the tools to go in there and give it a little loving.
Yeah.
And we gave it some loving.
Yeah.
And so it appraised at $205,000 in 2019. And today, the roundabout value of that home is somewhere between $300,000 to $325,000.
Yeah. We love this house. Like, honestly, we've talked about if anything happened, we would move to that house.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's just
I really
a great
love it.
Layout, and maybe we'll build something like that in time when we build our new house.
Yeah.
I don't know. We found the deal on the MLS.
That's right.
It was one I had saved searches. It popped up. Called our agent. We went out and looked at it.
Made an offer that day.
Yeah, it was a quick and easy. And they accepted our offer.
And we had our private money lined up. I think we closed on that house in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was quick.
Yeah.
And the renovations.
The renovations took a little longer than I had hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the par for the course, Sometimes they take longer, sometimes they take even longer than longer.
Right.
I think that's kind of how it goes with renovations. It was a good turnover.
Yeah. And we financed it with our private money on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
On the refi, we actually used a conventional. I was still working my job, so
this is where Tiffany used one of her golden tickets.
Yes.
Let's do a bit of a break right here and talk about the golden tickets. What does that mean?
So a conventional loan means you get way better financing.
Okay.
I don't recall how many total we did, but we'll put it this way. We have a 30-year fixed loan on this property at 2.99%.
But what does it mean for it to be a golden ticket? Does that mean it's financed, personally guaranteed by you, Tiffany, or the business? Or what is
it's in my personal name. So if you go run my personal credit report, you'll see I have all these mortgages.
Right.
So when we go to apply for a mortgage on our personal house, I'm going to have to submit paperwork on all these houses.
But all the other houses that we have commercial notes on, those are
in the business.
Those are in the business. The ones that are in your name are attached to you.
Right.
The ones that are in the business name are attached to the business.
Yeah, and that was something we were fine doing because 2.99% over 30 years, that's a very low mortgage payment.
I think what I was getting at is why do we call them golden tickets? And that's because the banks will only often allow you to get up to 10
or 4, depending on the bank and the situation.
From 4 to 10 properties financed in your personal name.
Right.
And you usually are able to get this by having a W-2 income to show that you can afford it.
Right.
And so how do you get from like house number 2 to 3 and 3 to 4? Well, that's because some of those houses that you've used your golden tickets on are producing income. And it takes 2 years of those performing as rental properties to count them as rental income.
Yeah.
So if you have a W-2 job and you have rental properties and you're personally buying these homes, just know you can get between 4 and 10. And the reason I think we call them golden tickets is because you get the best financing on them.
Yep.
But you're limited on how many you can get. And it takes a little bit of strategy.
And a lot of effort on paperwork.
That's right. It's effort on paperwork, but it's also effort on strategy because you have to have one for 2 years showing rental income so that it offsets.
Yeah,
so that it doesn't mess with your DTI.
They will let you use a lease that's been recently signed if it's a year-long lease and you have a history of being in the rental business. But if you're brand new, you generally have to have 2 years of experience.
But in that case, before the 2 years, they don't count the income. They just offset it. They say, okay.
Sometimes, yeah. It just depends on the lender.
They'll just say, we're not going to count that mortgage against your DTI.
Right.
But we're also not going to count the rental income towards your income.
And usually it's 75% of the rent that they will count.
Well, there we go.
Account for expenses and stuff.
Off the tangent of the golden ticket.
Yeah, so this house, it's rented out on a fixed 1-year lease.
Right.
It's a great property, and it's a solid one to have in the portfolio.
So that was a part of the Snowball that had already grown.
Right.
I mean, this was property number 8, 9, 10, somewhere along that line.
Something like
so
that.
The Snowball had already been building.
Right.
Right. And the reason the Snowball had built so big was because of all the work we did on the front end.
Right.
Like that first year, the Snowball was so small.
Yeah. It's the flywheel analogy. It takes a lot of effort to get the wheel spinning. But once you get momentum, it goes a lot easier. So for this one, you weren't working on the property. No. You were managing a team out there. Mm-hmm. And even with our recent turnover, there was a lot of repairs that need to happen. And you did very minimal work out there.
That's right.
Overseeing. So it got easier in that you think back to that first property we had where you did literally everything to now we just drove by there a few times and kind of gave us something to do with the kid in the afternoon. So it worked out well.
And wrote checks.
Yep.
That's great.
So the next house,
I call it the Hillbilly House, only because it's the Beverly Hillbilly House, because it's on a street known for Beverly Hillbillies.
Okay.
Right. So I call it the Hillbilly House, not because there's any hillbillies living in it. Just to be clear.
Yeah, it's managed by a property manager at this point, so we don't even know the tenants there. So
yeah.
Just to make that clear.
So we bought this house September of 2020. All in, we were $137,000 all in on this 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it appraised at $154,000.
Yep.
And so we left some money in that deal too.
Yep. So this one was kind of cool because we found it through friends at church.
Right.
They were selling a house and they just didn't want to deal with getting it fixed up. And
well, there were multiple factors here.
Yeah.
And the only way we were able to take down this house was by having the tools. And the only way I found these tools was by listening and reading and learning from people like Bill Cook and some other mentors and friends of ours about creative deal structuring. And so when someone approached us at church and said, hey, I know that y'all have rental properties. I know that y'all are in the rental property game and that y'all buy houses. Well, we want to buy this house across town and we really want to move into there, but we can't afford it until we sell our house. And they said, the problem is we don't have the money to fix our house up to get it on the market in order to get a decent price that would cover the note and all these other things. And the other catch was they're already under contract on this new house and they have basically 30 days to figure it out. And so I tell them, hey, let me come over and take a look at the house. This could be something we can do. And I don't remember how much they were wanting for the house. I think they were wanting somewhere in the 145 range, but it needed a little bit more work than I think they realized. And so I offered them 137. We were able to get that deal under contract and closed. No, because that's the all-in cost, 137. What did we pay for it? Like
116.
116 is what we paid. So we paid 116 for the house and were able to get it renovated and whatnot. But the only reason this deal happened was because we had the answer to their problem.
Right. We could close quick.
Their problem was they needed the money out of their house to pay for this new house. And they had a very small time frame to do it in. And they were willing to give up some upside because they were not having to deal with fixing it up, dealing with conventional buyers, and in the sense of, home inspections and making sure everything worked right.
Right.
We told them we will buy it as is.
Yeah. And
we were very clear, transparent up front that you're not going to get as much for this house if I buy it.
Right.
If I buy this house, I'm buying it less than what you would get on the market, but you're getting your problem solved.
Right.
The problems that you have are being solved. So that's how we structured that deal. We bought it as is. I think we closed that one in like 12 days.
It was quick, yeah.
Yeah, that was a 12-day close, I think. And when we closed on that house, they closed on their other house at the same time. We did like a double close that day for them. We purchased and they purchased.
So the renovations on it?
We had to paint the whole inside. We had to rebuild some decks. We had to do a lot of painting. There was some minor electrical and plumbing to do throughout. And floors throughout. overall, it was a pretty lipstick flip.
Yeah.
That I didn't spend much time at.
I don't even remember the scope of the renovations because I was there so little.
Right. And it was September of 2020. You were
Very
7 months pregnant.
Yeah.
7 or 8 months pregnant. And you didn't need to be there.
Right.
So
I do remember waddling down that driveway because it's a very steep driveway.
Right.
And we had, our contractors were in the driveway. So I do remember going out there once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 years into this property, it does a good job.
Yeah. Well, you were out at the property and this woman pulls up and says, "Can I rent this house?" And you talk to her and it wound up working out. And
now that doesn't always work out because every time I'm at a property, people stop and say, "I want to rent."
Right.
And this was a unique situation where she had a very good voucher program that we were willing to work with.
So like a Section 8 voucher.
Yeah, because we had heard good things about it. And, it was guaranteed. And
right. And
so,
we still background checked and
absolutely.
checked her credit and all of that. So we did our due diligence
Mm-hmm.
for sure. We don't just let random people that pull up and say, "Hey, can I rent this house?"
Well, I did on the first one.
With her?
No, I did on the very first house.
Yeah, on your before I was involved, yes.
Before you got involved, that's exactly how I would be running it.
Right. We funded it with private money on the purchase. That's how we closed so quick.
That's right.
And then we did a refinance on it. And that one, I think we did another conventional. Just looking at the interest rate, it's pretty low. So
what's the interest rate on that one?
3.625.
Okay. So at that time, that wasn't the best.
I think it's just rates had gone up at that point.
In 2019, 2020, well, this one was in 2020. Yeah, in 2019, those rates were fire.
Yeah,
they were
crazy.
so good. You could get a conventional loan with great credit for nearly 2% in 2018, 2019.
And the crazy thing is, these rates are lower than we got on our personal residences.
Right.
In 2017, 2016.
It's nuts.
So,
but now, in today's day and age, we're seeing rates go back up.
Right.
It's the ebb and flow of the market and inflation. And
I just want to say, rates are up from this level, but they're still not high. We have not really seen high rates.
And the people that we spend a lot of time with in the real estate circle that we're in, they talk about how they built their portfolios back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and some of them had long-term 30-year fixed rates at 12 to 15%. And, that's just mind-boggling to us that was what success looked like then. And they were super happy to get a 12.5% loan. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, that was the best loan at the time.
Right.
And now they've obviously either paid those houses off if that's their strategy, or they definitely refinance it.
Yeah.
So we're still in a good place. It's just harder to find good deals at the moment. Yeah.
And that's usually how it goes. Either money's easy or deals are easy. Yeah. So next we have our granite house. We bought this in November of 20. We all in were about 160. It appraised at 210, and now it's probably worth about 275. So another solid house in the portfolio.
Absolutely solid.
So you want to talk about how we found it? Yeah,
this was an incredible opportunity that came to us again. And we used this contractor for all of our granite needs, and I called them to order granite one day. And she's like, "Hey, if you know anybody looking for a house, I'm going to be moving."
I just want to add, Eric flirted with her all the time.
Well,
she was your buddy.
She was my buddy at the granite place.
Yeah, and you flirted back and forth, and
I needed the granite to get in at a good time.
Yeah. And hey, it got us a house. And I was just, I'll take it.
And that's just my personality, being nice and, overly excited about life in general. Yeah. I was like, well, hey, you're selling your house. I'll buy it.
She was a real estate agent. Yeah. So she just knew she didn't want to deal with listing it.
Yeah. And she's like, "You sure you want to buy my house?" Like, just like that. I was like, let me come look at it. So whenever they looked at it, saw great potential, great value add. The problem is she didn't want to necessarily sell it just yet. There was some problems with title and whatnot. And so we worked it out to where we would buy the property subject to the existing loan.
So she got some cash at closing.
Yeah. At the subject to closing, we gave her cash so that she could move to this new place that she was moving to. The reason why she needed to sell. So we took over the payments. We brought the property subject to the existing loan. So we took over payments for the loan. We're making payments on the loan. She has her cash in hand, some of her cash in hand at the front end. We go in and renovate the property. We did a full renovation here. Yeah. We did all new paint, all new flooring, We even added a wall downstairs to separate garage from the
downstairs rooms.
Yeah, the downstairs rooms.
A couple bedrooms in the basement.
Did some HVAC work, did some plumbing work.
It was a lot.
We re-sided the whole house. We removed a wraparound deck and added a new porch on the front and back. There was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Had to get septic work done. I mean, it kind of kept piling on, but it was still a great property. And about 8 months later is when we bought the property from her, essentially.
Well, we refinanced. Title already came into our name. So we owned it. Mm-hmm. She still had the mortgage. Yep. So when we did our refinance, we paid off that mortgage. She got another chunk of cash.
Right. So we had promised her on the front end, we can give you X today. And when we refinance, we will give you another X amount.
Right.
And the reason why we had a structure like that is because we didn't have access to all of the cash at the time. But we knew that once we refinanced, we would have access to that cash. Right. And we put into our contract that we will refinance this property within 18 months.
Right.
And she wanted it done within a year. And we were like, we want to get it done within a year as well. But we can't guarantee you that it will happen. But we will guarantee you, we will buy you out and have you paid off within 18 months. Yep. And that would have given us enough runway to solidify other financing if it didn't shake out.
Right. With this refinance we did on this house, we wound up leaving $1,000 of our own cash
in the deal.
So close enough to a true burr, I would say.
Right. Absolutely. And it was one of those that we didn't need that much money at the front end to take over this property.
Right.
We didn't have to secure financing to take over the property. We didn't have to go out and get a loan to take over this property. We solved the issue that she needed a little money to get moved up where she was moving to. Mm-hmm. We solved that issue. We took over her payment, so now she doesn't have to worry about paying on this house that she's not living in anymore. We're able to go in and get it renovated and then get long-term financing on the back end.
Yeah. And then all it was just talking about what we do. So the last two houses that we had bought were just from relationships and people we knew.
Exactly.
And the really cool thing, so we bought this in early November. Mm-hmm. We had a tenant moving out of our race car house.
If you remember the race car house.
So she was moving out. She wanted a bigger place. So she had 4 boys in this little tiny 3-bedroom house.
Yeah.
And this house has 5 bedrooms. So each boy got their own bedroom. So she moved out, and then the other tenants moved in to the race car house. Mm-hmm. So we had no turnover on the race car house. And she moved in pretty much the day it was ready.
I know that she gave keys to the new tenants to race car house the day that she got keys for the new house. And it was just a switch. A U-Haul truck pulled in and a U-Haul truck pulled out all in the same day. And it was really, really nice to see that there was no break in rent or any...
Yeah, and they're great tenants. We love having them. And I think those boys love that house, the backyard, and...
It's a big old house. Yeah, it's a big house.
All right. So we've got 2 more to go through. So we have Mr. Rogers' house. I named it this because it's in the neighborhood of another house that we owned. So
it's not just in the neighborhood, it's right next door.
Yes. If you're in the backyard of one house, you can see it. So it popped up on my Zillow saved search. Highly recommend you have saved searches.
Yeah.
So it notified me that this house was listed. Turns out it was listed by an agent in the same brokerage as our agent.
Right.
Really easy to close.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw it come up, and this was in April of 2021.
Right.
And we saw it pop up, and we're like, this is kind of market value.
Yep.
And we were a little nervous going into purchasing this, but there were a few factors that drove us to deciding, you know what, we're going to make an offer. And we're going to buy this house because, A, we love this neighborhood.
Yes, we knew the neighborhood very well.
We knew it very well.
We had lived in that house.
Yes, we did.
The first one in that street that we had bought.
The ghost house.
Yeah, yeah.
The ghost house.
We lived in it while we were living in our camper. So we knew the area. We knew it was a solid neighborhood. They're all, 50s and 60s brick ranches. So
it's a solid, big lot neighborhood.
Yep.
Every house has about a quarter to a half acre. We call that big lot in our area because most times in neighborhoods in our area, lots are 8 or smaller acreage if you're in a neighborhood.
I keep thinking you're talking about Big Lots, the store, and I'm like, what?
No, not Big Lots.
Yes.
We paid right at...
Yeah, it appraised
market
right
value.
At market value.
Yep. We bought it for, what did we pay for it? Like $160-ish? we were all in at 170 and it appraised at 175 in April of 21.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, not that we're benefiting from it, but appreciation has driven that house value up to about 250.
And this was another one where the appraisal came in where they cherry picked the comps, and it should have appraised much higher than it did. But we were okay with the situation. So.
Right. So we left some money in this deal. Happy to do it because it's a solid house. We have solid tenants living there. And there wasn't much work that needed to go into it. We did some painting here and there. There was a closed-in garage that had heating and air and all utilities to the room. It's just there wasn't a wall put up between the den and this room. And so during the renovation, we added a door and a wall into that closed-in area, which had all the elements for a bedroom. We added a closet and a wall, and now we took this 3-bedroom, 2-bath into a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. If we add that into the analysis for the appraised value, we're probably looking at the 250 to 275 range.
Because it didn't appraise on our refinance, we actually took a second position from a private individual.
Right.
Because we did not have the cash to leave in there, and we knew the value was there.
Right.
So this person just gets an extra check every month. They had cash just sitting around.
We call that lazy money.
Yeah, it was a win-win.
You know, someone that's like, yeah, I've got $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 sitting around, and I don't really want to just earn 0.5% in a CD for 2 years, and I know I don't want to touch it. This is kind of my nest egg, and I don't need it to be within my touch. I want to just hold on to this.
Right. If this person does need it, it's available.
Absolutely.
We just said, give us a couple months. We'll find a way to get it back to you. But
so it's not as locked up as a CD. The return on it is so much better than a CD. And we're able to help individuals instead of helping
and they're
corporate
helping
banks.
Us. Yeah. Right. It's a great situation. So
we're earning them more interest than what the bank would give them. They're helping us to have this property. It is a win-win situation.
Yeah, and I mean, it was taking a situation where we were very disappointed, and I was stressed out because I didn't know how we were going to fund this closing.
Right.
You find a way to make it work.
And if you talk about what you do, and you show people that there are opportunities for them to be a part of what you do with very little, engagement, the individual that we had borrowed this money from has very little engagement in the process. All they know is that they get a $300-$400 check every month, $200-$300. I don't know how much, but they get a check every month for money that they would have otherwise not gotten money on. Whatever that does for their lifestyle, I'm happy. I'm great because it solved a big problem for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Figuring out, well, where the heck are we going to find the money?
Right.
Otherwise, so.
Yep. So the last property we bought was in January of this year. We had decided we weren't really going to be buying a lot of deals at this point between the kid and the podcast and the book and all the other things we've got going on and just the state of the market. We just thought, we need to kind of pause. But then this house came up on my save search. And this was one that I told Eric, I want a house in this neighborhood. Like, I don't care what we have to pay for it. It will appraise in time. The long-term play there. The area, I think, is going to come up and become a really nice area. It's very renter-heavy right now. So in 5 years, I don't care what I pay for it today because I know in the future it's going to be worth way more. So it popped up. We bought it, closed on it in January of this year. We had about 187 all in. We left it with private money, so we haven't refinanced it. And we think today it's worth about 210.
Yeah, and we were able to add value by converting a half bath into a full bath by adding a shower and extending the bathroom just a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't that crazy of a renovation at all.
And you added a bedroom.
And we added a bedroom. And so, we took this 2.1.5 into a 3.2 without that much effort.
Yeah.
It was one of those opportunities where we can add value. And there's still opportunities out there to add value, even if you're paying market price. Because when you add that value, you're jumping that valuation up.
Right. Yeah.
When you add that value.
Yeah, and we bought this one intentionally to rent by the room.
This is one of those rent by the rooms that we have and set up a plan for it and did an evaluation on what the return would be and how much can we afford to pay for it. Are we going to leave it in short-term money and, just do an interest-only note? Or are we going to do a long-term refinance out? Knowing what that end goal of renting by the room and knowing that it works in our market by having other houses that we rent by the room, was the way we were able to essentially make it a smart goal purchase.
Right.
You know, it was a smart purchase legitimately and by the way we took it down.
Yeah, we were willing to pay full market. And yes, we added value by converting the bedroom and bathroom, but even if we didn't, we had our private money lender finance the full purchase for us. So we didn't have to, we paid for the renovations and closing costs, but we knew the return would be there in the short term, especially. We don't plan to rent by the room forever because we think that neighborhood is going to evolve over the next 5 years. And when that happens, rents will be higher. The value of the house will be higher. We'll do a refinance at that point, put in a standard 12-month lease, and just add it to our standard portfolio.
You're right. Absolutely. So the whole idea of this episode is to tell you that it gets easier in time.
Yeah. You went over to that house a lot just because you wanted to, not because you had to.
Yeah. I went over there because I was excited to see the progress.
Yeah.
I didn't really do any work over there.
Right.
I was just watching.
Yeah, but
and it was so much fun to see.
We were able to write the book and produce this podcast and do a lot more than we had done previously. And we weren't working crazy hours. We were working kind of a standard 8 to 5 and not working weekends while we bought all of these houses because we had the systems in place.
By talking through these properties, if first-year investor Eric could hear fourth-year investor Eric talk, he would think, there's no way that's me.
Right.
There's no way that in year 4, you're doing these kind of deals, that you're doing this many deals, that you're doing this smart of deals. There's no way that you're doing that. And I don't know what year 1 investor Tiffany would say to year 4 investor Tiffany, but it's going to be hard to imagine what future you can do because it's so hard to fathom that a snowball can build so large.
Yeah.
And can build so effectively.
You learn a lot in the first year or two. Mm-hmm. I'm a different person, and I know you are too.
Absolutely.
Who we were 4 years ago.
Yeah, no kidding. And, the whole idea is that your snowball has to start somewhere. And we were able to solve these problems and get these houses because we started building our snowball 4 years ago.
Yeah, and we had community. When we had these off-market deals come across our lap, we had no clue how to build that contract.
Yeah. I remember I called my buddy Carrie, and I was like, hey, Carrie, I got a sub 2 that I'm working through right now, and I just need to run some things by you just to see that I'm doing things right. And he was really good at saying, have you thought about this? Did you include this in your contract? What's your exit strategy on this part of the deal? How are you going to move this little lever to otherwise move this lever within the contract? And having that community and someone to be there to be a sounding board.
Yeah.
And it's not like I went to this person and said, hey, I need you to teach me how to do this sub 2 deal. I had a basic understanding of subject 2 deals.
You did your research online. You just didn't know some of the nuances.
And I went to Cashflow Depot and bought my lifetime subscription and got access to the paperwork for sub 2 deals and got to listen to different people teach on subject 2 deals, on how to communicate with a seller, how to communicate with the existing mortgage holder, how to set up those payment accounts, how to make sure you're doing it safe, secure, and legal. And so I did my research. The only reason I called my buddy Carrie was because I just needed a little bit of probably encouragement that I was doing the right thing.
Right.
Just a sounding board that, hey, I've done all this work, but I just, as a friend and a colleague, I need you to just tell me I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just wanted the sounding board.
Right.
But don't expect someone to be your sounding board if you're not putting in some work yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And if you don't have a lifetime subscription to Cashflow Depot, I encourage you to go do it. Good friends of ours, Bill and Kim Cook, have taken that over and got some big things coming with Cashflow Depot, I'm sure, in the future, moving forward. Find everything Jack Miller there as well, who was elite real estate investor, educator from the 80s to the early 2010. Other than that, next week we're going to be launching the recap episode. It'll be just a little sit-down coffee hang with me. I'm going to be walking you through everything we learned this season, kind of little snippets of what you didn't hear on the episodes and some of them, and just little insights on what we're doing.
Yeah.
So next week is our big recap episode of season 2.
Then we'll take a few weeks off and
That's right.
come back rocking hard with season 3.
That's right.
And if you have not checked it out yet, circle.onpurposeinvestor.com is a great place to get connected with other Pathfinders and keep up to date with everything we got going on, especially during this break. We're going to be working on our book launch coming up. Yeah. Actually, just kidding. We are recording this ahead of time, so the book will actually be launched already.
We hope so. And with the exception of any snafus that come up.
Oh, we're actually launching the book the day this comes out. So,
well, let's hope and keep our fingers crossed that on the date of the Snowball Effect is also the launch of the Pathfinder's Journey.
July 19th. That's what we're shooting for. So if you're not following us on social media or on our email list, definitely get on there so you can get all the info on how to get the book. And we've got some cool bonuses included in there. So
that's right.
Check it out. Leave us a review on Amazon. We'd greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Help us reach more people and convert more people to Pathfinders.
Yes.
It's a good journey to be on.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're happy to be on it together.
Yes.
All right, take us out.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for hanging out with us and listening to us talk about our snowball and how it gets easier with time. What lessons can you take from our experience and apply to your life? Don't let the time you just invested go to waste. You only get one life, so live it purposefully. That's all we have for you today. See you next time.
Are you ready to discover and build your dream life? Then it's time to become a Pathfinder. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get tips and tricks to help you find your path and get the latest from our blog. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review on your favorite podcast app. If you're enjoying this show, share it with friends, family, and fellow investors. See you next time at the On Purpose Investor Podcast.